The galaxy was quiet. Out here, far from the busy star lanes, the void felt endless, cold, and eternal. Captain Schur had always liked it that way. Silence meant safety. Silence meant no trouble. Tonight, the silence broke. It started as a faint blip on the Starpiercer's long-range scanners. At first, it was so weak the ship's computers almost ignored it, a whisper in the dark. But then the signal grew stronger, clearer, and stranger. The crew gathered around the main console as Schur leaned forward, eyes locked on the glowing readouts. The signal was human. It alone made no sense. This sector of space had been abandoned by humanity centuries ago. Records showed that every human colony in this region had been evacuated after a series of catastrophic wars. Ships destroyed, planets burned, survivors fleeing to safer systems. No one came back. No one could. Yet here it was, a human distress beacon, steady and unbroken. It wasn't the soft, desperate cry of a colony in trouble. No, this one was sharp, almost mechanical, repeating in a cold, clipped rhythm. There was no plea for help. Only a set of coordinates repeated over and over. Lieutenant Arik, ship's comms officer, adjusted the filters and frowned. Captain? There's something in the signal, he said. It's not just coordinates. There's another code running beneath it. Shire's scaled brow creased. Translate it. A moment later, the display lit up with a series of words in standard military. Alert, defensive systems active. State your Alesia, and Sitha. Bridge went silent. The Valkesh were explorers? Scientists? They weren't used to messages that sounded like threats. Schur glanced at her crew. Most were staring at the console like it might explode. This can't be right, one of the junior navigators muttered. Humans don't live here anymore. Everyone knows that. Schur didn't answer. She remembered her training. When you find something impossible, you don't dismiss it. Investigate it. And yet deep inside, her instincts whispered that this was not an invitation. Set course for the coordinates, she ordered. There were quiet protests, uneasy glances, but the crew obeyed. The Starpiercer turned, its engines humming as it slipped into faster-than-light travel. Hours passed in tense silence. No one spoke much. The only sound was the steady, almost heartbeat-like thrum of the ship's core. Schur sat in her chair, her claws tapping the armrest. She kept thinking about the message. A distress beacon was one thing. Coded military alert from a supposedly dead world was another. And it wasn't just the code, it was the way it was transmitted. The signal was too strong, too clean. If this world had been abandoned for centuries, its technology shouldn't even work anymore. When they dropped out of warp, the crew gasped. Ahead lay a star system bathed in the soft light of a yellow sun. The coordinates pointed to the third. Planet Alush, blue and green sphere. But it was not peaceful. Orbiting the planet was an entire defense grid. Massive platforms bristling with weapons. Satellite arrays that shimmered faintly as if wrapped in invisible shields. Human ships, drifted in formation, their hulls painted black with streaks of crimson. Even from this distance, Schur could see the insignia etched onto their sides, a stylized human skull with crossed lightning bolts. The Starpiercer's scanners came alive with warnings. Multiple targeting systems had locked onto them the moment they arrived. Captain, Arik said, his voice tight, every weapon. And that orbit is aimed at us. A voice cut through the comms deep, steady, and unmistakably human. Unidentified vessel. You have entered the sovereign territory of Eden 6. State your allegiance immediately, or be destroyed. The bridge crew froze. Come, Officer Eden 6? She asked quietly. Arik shook his head. That colony was declared lost over 300 years ago. The human voice repeated the demand. This time the tone was sharper. Schur took the cum. This is Captain. Schur of the Valkesh exploratory vessel Starpiercer. Come in peace. We detected your distress beacon, and there is no distress here, the voice interrupted.
How?
You have 30 seconds to state your allegiance. The channel went dead. On the bridge, everyone exchanged nervous looks. The ship's AI began. quietly calculating evasive maneuvers in case the humans opened fire. Shire's mind raced. Whoever these people were, they weren't just surviving, they were heavily armed and ready for war. And they weren't expecting friends. Before she could respond, a formation of 3 sleek human warships broke orbit and moved toward them. Their hulls caught the sunlight, revealing heavy armor plating and missile bays. The Starpier's scanners reported energy spikes, shields charging, weapons priming. Captain Arik whispered, "They're moving fast." Shire's claws dug into the armrest. "Hold position. Do not arm weapons. Keep our shields on standby." Human ships stopped just a few kilometers away, their massive forms dwarfing the Valkesh vessel. The lead ship sent another message, this time in a slightly calmer tone. "Eden 6 Defense Command, to alien vessel. Transmit your identification codes now. Any delay will be treated as hostile action." Shur nodded to Arik, who sent the codes. A tense minute passed. Then the reply came. "Your presence is unexpected. You will follow our escort to Docking Bay 7. Any deviation will be considered an attack, understood?" Shur hesitated. This felt wrong, but curiosity and duty won over caution, understood. The escort ships turned and began leading them toward the planet. As the Starpiercer followed, Shur studied the world below. From orbit, Eden 6 looked beautiful, oceans glimmering, forests sprawling across continents, cities shining with bright, clean lights. But there was something different about those cities. Through the ship's magnification lenses, Shur could see defensive walls, massive artillery turrets, and airfields lined with war machines. Even the tallest skyscrapers had reinforced armor, plating, and mounted cannons. The entire planet looked like it had been built not for comfort, but for survival. They passed under one of the massive orbital platforms. Its weapon arrays tracked their every move. Shur caught herself holding her breath. Humans didn't trust the man. She suspected they didn't trust anyone. As they descended through the atmosphere, the sky shimmered faintly. The escort ships passed through it without slowing, but the Starpiercer sensors went wild. A planetary shield. Eden 6 wasn't just defended, it was fortified to a level Shur had never seen before. The docking bay was a massive steel cavern. Carved into the side of a mountain, human soldiers lined the walkways, their armor matte black with glowing red visors. They held weapons ready, not aimed, but not relaxed either. When the Starpiercer's ramp lowered, the air smelled faintly of metal and fuel. Shur stepped out first, hands open, trying to appear non-threatening. A tall human man approached, flanked by 2 guards. His uniform was dark, his expression harder than stone. "I am Commander Reese," he said. His voice carried no warmth. "You are on Eden 6. You will speak only when spoken to. You will answer every question. And you will tell me exactly why you are here." Shur met his gaze. "We detected your signal. We thought you needed help." Reese's mouth twitched, almost like a smile, but it wasn't. "We don't need help. We've been preparing for centuries for what's coming now. Tell me, who sent you?" Shur hesitated. "We came on our own. We are explorers." Commander studied her for a long moment, his eyes cold and calculating. "Explorers," he said slowly. "Then you've just stumbled into a war you don't understand." Somewhere deep inside the mountain, alarms began to sound. Reese turned toward the noise, his jaw tightening. "They've found us," he muttered. He looked back at Shur. "Welcome to Eden 6, Captain. Let's see if you live long enough to regret it." The alarms grew louder. War in the sky above, the war had already begun. The moment the alarms began to wail, the humans moved with frightening precision. Soldiers on the walkways snapped into formation, weapons coming up in unison. Overhead, armored blast doors began sliding shut, sealing the massive docking bay from the outside world. The air seemed to tighten, filled with the smell of hot metal and ozone. Captain Shur glanced at her crew. The Valkesh were explorers, not warriors. They had no idea what kind of danger they'd walked into, but it was clear that Eden 6 operated under a constant state of readiness. Commander Reese didn't shout. He didn't need to. His voice carried like steel across the bay. "Seal all outer gates. Get the shield generators to full output. I want every squad in position before they're in range." He turned to Shur, eyes sharp. "You and your people will come with me now." The Valkesh followed, flanked by armed guards. The humans led them through wide corridors lined with reinforced plating and narrow slits that served as firing ports. Even here, underground, Shur could hear the deep thrum of massive engines and the faint clatter of machinery and tire. Planet's war machine breathing just below the surface. As they stepped into a large lift, Shur finally spoke. "Your world. It is beautiful from orbit. But it is not like any human world I've ever seen." Reese didn't look at her. "We didn't come here for beauty. Eden 6 is a fortress. Everything we build has one purpose: survival." The lift doors opened into a sprawling command center. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing the planet's surface orbital defenses, and an array of red blips moving toward the system from deep space. Soldiers and officers moved with focused urgency, relaying orders and updating status reports. Shire's eyes were drawn to the largest displayer, real-time feed of the planet's sky. High above the clouds, defense platforms rotated toward the incoming signatures. Warships moved into position, their engines glowing like angry suns. "Coming?" Shur asked quietly. Reese glanced at her, then back at the display. "We don't know yet. Could be Dominion scouts. Could be pirates stupid enough to test our borders. Could be worse." His tone was almost casual, but there was no mistaking the tension in his jaw. The room shifted as a priority alert flashed across every screen. A voice called out from one of the operator stations. "Commander, targets are adjusting course. They're probing the perimeter." Reese's voice hardened. "Bring batteries 3 and 5 online. Load interceptor drones. No one crosses that line without my order." As Shur watched, she realized this was not a world at peace waiting for trouble. This was a world expecting trouble every single day. When the alert cleared, Reese motioned for her to follow him into a quieter briefing room. Heavy doors sealed behind them, cutting off the hum of the command center. Reese stepped closer, his gaze steady. "You said you came because of our signal."
Ow! It sure blinked.
"It's the truth, we know." His voice was low, certain. "You're not the first alien ship to come here in the last decade. Most didn't leave. So I'll ask once, who sent you? Was it the Dominion?" The word made Shur pause. "We have no dealings with this Dominion. We've only heard rumors, stories." Stories repeated, almost like the word was a bitter taste. "Then let me give you one worth remembering." Stepped to the wall and activated a projection. It filled the air between them with the image of a vast, burning battlefield in space. Warships the size of mountains clashed among shattered asteroids. Human ships, smaller, faster, darted in and out of the chaos, striking like predators before, vanishing into the dark. This, Reese said, was the last time humanity met the Dominion. 4 centuries ago, it came without warning. They burned our colonies, enslaved our people, erased entire worlds from the star maps. Eden 6's founders escaped here, far from the war, and they swore never to be caught unprepared again. The projection shifted, showing the construction of massive foundries. Shipyards hidden beneath mountains, soldiers training in zero-gravity arenas. Even children, no older than 10, running obstacle courses with rifles slung across their backs. "This is who we are now," Reese continued. "Every person on this planet has a role in defense. Every building doubles as a bunker. Every factory can be turned into a weapons plant in ours. We've been ready for the day they return. And make no mistake, Captain, they will return." Shur felt a chill crawl down her spine. She thought of her homeworld, peaceful and open, with little more than ceremonial defense ships. If the Dominion truly was as Reese described, the Valkesh would be swept aside like dust. The heavy doors slid open again, and one of Reese's officers stepped inside. "Commander, we have visual confirmation on the intruders. They're Dominion." Reese's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened like blades. "Put me through to the fleet." The officer left. Reese turned back to Shur. "You're About to see why Eden 6 is still here. Stay close. Don't get in the way. Shur followed him out, her mind racing. She had come here expecting to find a relic of human history. Instead, she'd found a predator in Hydinga, a world that had never stopped preparing for war, and now that war had found them. The sirens faded into the background, replaced by a deep, steady hum that seemed to pulse through the walls. Captain. Shur followed Commander Reese through a narrow steel corridor, flanked by armed guards. The deeper they went into the mountain, the more she felt like she was walking through the veins of some great machine, not a city. The air smelled faintly, of oil and hot circuitry. Somewhere far below, she could hear the rhythmic pounding of heavy machinery. They emerged into an enormous underground chamber. It was easily the size of a small city, lit by rows of industrial lights hanging from steel beams. What caught Shire's attention wasn't the size, it was the people. Hundreds of humans moved in tightly coordinated patterns. Some were running obstacle courses lined with jagged metal barriers. Others practiced in shooting ranges where distant targets exploded into shards. Children no older than 10 sprinted between stations, wearing lightweight combat suits and carrying training rifles. Teenagers sparred in a large arena, their blows fast and brutal, every move efficient. There was no laughter, no idle chatter. Only the sounds of training boots hitting the ground, rifles firing, orders being barked. Shur slowed her pace as they passed a group of young recruits. One girl, barely in her teens, slammed her opponent to the mat, pinning him with a move so precise, it was almost mechanical. The instructor didn't praise her, simply barked the next drill. The girl sprang up without hesitation, ready to continue. Reese didn't look at Shur, but his voice carried the weight of someone who had explained this before. Every citizen of Eden 6 trains for war. We don't have civilians. You're born a soldier here. Shur glanced at the guards walking beside them. From birth.
From before birth, Reese said.
Our genetic programs ensure every generation is stronger, faster, more resilient. The moment you can walk, you begin training. By the time you're 15, you're combat ready. By 20, you've served your first tour. They crossed a steel bridge that overlooked a massive assembly floor. Workers in armored uniforms moved between production lines where machines forged rifle barrels, ammunition casings, and the skeletal frames of drones. This is the foundry, Reese said. We don't build ships for exploration. Every vessel we construct is a warship. Every piece of technology is designed to kill faster, from greater range with less warning. Shire's scales prickled. In Valkesh culture, exploration was the highest calling, war the last resort. Here, war wasn't a last resort. It was the foundation of their existence. They stepped into another chamber, smaller and darker. The air was cooler here, and the sound of machinery faded. In the center of the room stood a cylindrical tank filled with pale blue liquid. Suspended inside, motionless, was a young man wearing a black bodysuit with wires running from his skin into the tank's walls. Reese gestured toward him. Neural conditioning, not dreaming. He's running 1,000 combat simulations. In his mind right now, when he wakes, his body will already know every move. Shur stared. That's dangerous. What if the simulations break his mind? They make him stronger, Reese said simply. Weakness is dangerous. Conditioning saves lives. A door hissed open, and a soldier stepped in, saluting. Commander, the Dominion scout fleet is holding position outside the perimeter. No aggression yet. Reese gave a curt nod. They're testing us. Let them look. Let them wonder. Turned back to Shur. They won't commit yet. They're waiting to see if we're worth the fight. Shur couldn't stop herself from asking, and if they decide you are. Reese's eyes narrowed. Then they'll learn what happens when you spend 400 years preparing for war. As they left the chamber, Shur noticed something. Elsemurals on the walls, painted in deep red and black. They weren't of landscapes or heroes. They were battle scenes. Human ships tearing through enemy lines. Soldiers raising banners over smoldering alien cities. Reese caught her looking. We don't forget our history. Every child grows up knowing what was taken from us and what we'll take back. They reached a large viewing platform. Beyond the glass stretched a vast underground hangar, filled with rows of black warships. Their hulls gleamed under bright lights, their weapon systems exposed like the teeth of predators. Technicians swarmed over them, loading ammunition, checking engines, preparing for something that felt inevitable. Reese stepped forward, his voice almost quiet now. "We were never lost, Captain. The galaxy thought we were gone, but we've been here all along, sharpening our blades." Sure felt a strange mix of awe and unease. This was not a desperate, struggling colony clinging to survival. This was a sleeping giant, one that had been awake for centuries, watching and waiting. Somewhere above them, the faint vibration of the mountain changed, like the distant rumble of engines coming to life. Sure turned to Reese. He met her gaze with a cold certainty. "When the time comes, Eden 6 will not hide. We will strike first." And in that moment, Sure understood. If the Dominion came, Eden 6 would be ready. But if they didn't, Eden 6 might go looking for them. The command center was dim, its walls lined with glowing tactical displays. The air smelled faintly of ozone, the tang of machines running at full capacity. Outside, somewhere beyond the thick layers of steel and mountain rock, the Dominion fleet hung at the edge of Eden 6's space like a predator, testing the air. Captain Sure stood beside Commander Reese as a holographic projection flickered to life in the middle of the room. It showed the star system in crisp detail in 6 at the center, surrounded by defense platforms and orbital fleets. At the edge, dozens of red triangles pulsed steadily. "They've been sitting there for 2 hours," Reese said, his voice calm but edged with steel, not moving closer, not leaving, just watching. Sure studied the shapes. Scouts. Yes, the Dominion always sends them first. They scan, probe, test your defenses. If you look weak, they call in the hammers. If you look strong, he paused, his eyes narrowing. They send bigger hammers. Sure folded her arms. Keep speaking of them like they're more than just another empire. Who are they really? Reese didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned to one of his officers. "Bring up archive footage, Warfront Series 72. The hologram shifted, showing grainy recordings from centuries ago. Battles in deep space. Human ships exploding under barrages of energy fire. Cities burning under alien bombardment. Massive. Insect-like war machines striding across ruined landscapes. The Dominion, Reese began, is not a single species. It's a machine built from hundreds of conquered civilizations. They absorb everything: technology, armies, resources, until nothing remains of the people they take. No history, no culture, just service to the Dominion." The images grew darker, human prisoners being loaded into massive transports. Their faces empty, their eyes dull. "When they came for us the first time, we weren't ready. The human colonies were scattered, divided. We had no unified fleet, no central command. They destroyed dozens of worlds before anyone could mount a proper defense. In the end, the survivors fled. Eden 6's founders were among them. They swore never to run again." Shire's gaze lingered on the recordings. "And you've been preparing ever since." Reese gave a small nod. "Every day, for 400 years, we've studied them. Learned their tactics, their weaknesses, built weapons they've never seen before. If they come again, we will not be the prey." A voice crackled over the command center speakers. "Commander, Dominion scouts have launched drones. They're approaching perimeter defense lines." Reese's eyes sharpened. "Have the drones destroyed before they cross the first marker? Make it quick." Sure watched the hologram as small blue markers at N6's interceptor craft moved to meet the incoming drones. One by one, the red blips vanished from the display, erased in seconds. "Testing you," Sure said softly. "Always," Reese replied. "They want to see how fast we respond, what kind of weapons we use, how we coordinate. Every scrap of data they collect makes their next move deadlier." Hesitated before asking the question forming in her mind. "And if they decide you're too dangerous to leave alone?" Reese looked at her directly. "And they'll come with everything they have. and we'll give them the war they've been avoiding. He turned to a console, tapping commands into it. A new projection bloomed in the air Dominion fleet formations. Massive warships bristling with weapons, supported by smaller strike craft and drone swarms. This is what we expect when they commit. We don't just want to survive the first wave, we want to crush it. To show them that humans are not a broken species scattered in the void. We want them to know the name Eden 6 and fear it. Sure couldn't tell if his words were driven by duty or something darker. The officer at the far console spoke again. "Commander, one of the scout ships is moving forward. They're hailing us." "Put it through," Reese ordered. The hologram shifted again, replaced by a cold, insectoid face, mandibles clicking, multifaceted eyes glimmering with a faint green light. The voice that followed was metallic and layered, like several voices speaking at once. "Identify your allegiance. The Dominion claims this system. Your forces are unauthorized." Reese didn't hesitate. "This system belongs to Eden 6. Leave now, or we'll feed your fleet to the void." There was no reply. The screen went dark. Sure could feel the tension. In the room, like the air itself, was waiting. Then the officer's voice cut through the silence. "Commander, your ship is retreating." Reese smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Good. Let them run back and tell their masters what they've seen. It'll bring them here faster." Shire's tail twitched nervously. "You want them to attack?" "I want them to commit," Reese said flatly. "The longer they wait, the stronger they become. We've been ready for centuries. The galaxy isn't." She realized then that Eden 6 wasn't just preparing to defend itself. It was preparing to strike first hard enough that the Dominion would never recover. And deep down, she wondered if that made them saviors. Or something far more dangerous. The war room felt smaller now, even though nothing had changed. Hum of machines, the sharp click of boots against steel. The faint smell of hot metal lit all pressed in on Captain Schur as Commander Reese turned toward her. "You've seen what's coming," Reese said, his voice steady but heavy with intent. "You've seen what we can do. Now it's time to decide where you stand." Shire's tail flicked once, a subtle sign of unease. "We are explorers, Commander. We do not take sides in wars that are not ours." Reese stepped closer, his shadow cutting across the holographic table between them. "If you think you can stay neutral, you don't understand the Dominion. They'll come for you whether you choose a side or not. They came for us when we were weak. They'll come for you when you're unprepared." Schur met his gaze. "You want an alliance?" "Alliance?" Reese's lips twitched in something that might have been a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "No, Captain. I'm offering you survival. You fight alongside us, under our command, with our strategy. Our terms. Or when the Dominion arrives, you'll be their first example to the rest of your people." The room went silent. The only sound was the steady hum of the hologram, still showing the Dominion scout fleet at the edge of Eden 6's space. "That's not an alliance," Schur said slowly. "That's subjugation." Reese didn't deny it. "Call it what you like. I call it the only way to win." He gestured toward the display. "Your Valkis ships are fast, but lightly armed. Your homeworld has no orbital defenses strong, enough to stop a single Dominion battlecruiser. If they come tomorrow, you'll burn. If you fight with us, we'll make sure they never reach your skies." Shire's mind churned. The Valkesh High Council would never agree to this. They valued autonomy above all else. But the images she had seen, the burning colonies, the enslaved survivors, still lingered like smoke in her thoughts. One of Reese's officers entered. "Commander, Dominion scouts have withdrawn to the edge of the system. No pursuit." Reese gave a sharp nod, but didn't take his eyes off Schur. "They'll be back. And when they come, they won't be alone." Schur took a slow breath. "I refuse. What then?" Reese's answer came without hesitation. "Then you leave Eden 6 immediately. When the war reaches you, we won't be there to save you." Schur knew it wasn't an empty threat. This world's defenses, its fleets, but joining them meant giving up everything the Valkesh stood for. She looked back at the hologram. The red markers at the edge of the system pulsed like a heartbeat. "Waiting. Watching. I will." "Speak to my council," she said, finally. Reese's gaze softened slightly, but only slightly. Do that. But remember, Captain Wars aren't won by talking. They're won by those willing to strike first. Ashur turned to leave. She wasn't sure what frightened her more, the Dominion fleet waiting in the dark, or the humans of Eden 6, who seemed just as dangerous. The decision was made without warning, without ceremony, and without a single vote from anyone outside Eden 6's War Council. Captain Schur was in the Starpiercer's docking berth when the hangar shook with the roar of engines. She rushed to the observation deck just in time to see the first wave of human warships lift from their underground bays. Sleek black holes gleamed under the pale light of the shielded sky. Engines burned blue-white as they shot upward, streaking toward orbit. Her cum crackled. It was Reese. Captain, stay docked. What you're about to see will change how you think about war. She wanted to reply, but the sight unfolding above stole her words. Through the shield's faint shimmer, she saw dozens, no, hundreds of ships rise in perfect formation. Each one bristled with weapons, their lines sharp, predatory. Massive carriers followed, flanked by swarms of smaller strike craft, and then, without fanfare, the entire fleet vanished into the black, slipping into warp toward the Dominion scouts. The Starpiercer's crew gathered beside her at the viewing port. They whispered in hushed tones, their eyes wide. There. Going after them, one of her officers murmured. Schur didn't answer. She already knew. Eden 6 wasn't going to wait for the Dominion to return. They were taking the fight straight to them. Hours later, first battle reports came in. From the command center's live feed, Schur watched the Eden 6 fleet drop out of warp on the Dominion's flank. The humans didn't hail them. Negotiate. They opened fire. Their weapons were? Wrong. Schur had seen railguns and plasma batteries before, but these were faster, hotter, and unnervingly precise. Massive bursts of kinetic fire punched through Dominion hulls in seconds, tearing apart ships that had likely survived decades of battles elsewhere. Swarms of autonomous drones darted through the chaos, striking engines, reactors, weapon mounts, crippling their targets before fading into the void. The Dominion's formation crumbled in minutes. Their surviving ships tried to flee, but the humans chased them, driving them into the path of hidden mines that detonated in white-hot bursts. Turning space itself into a trap, it wasn't a battle. It was an execution. In less than an hour, the entire Dominion scouting fleet was gone. Not a single human ship had been destroyed. Schur stood in silence, her claws resting on the edge of the console. She could feel the eyes of Eden 6's officers on her. They weren't celebrating, they weren't even smiling. This was routine for them. Just another strike in a war that had never really ended. Reese entered the room, his boots clicking softly against the metal floor. Now you understand, he said. We don't wait. Don't give them time to gather strength. Every Dominion fleet that enters our reach is destroyed before it can report back. Shire's voice was low. You started a war tonight, Reese. Shook his head. No, Captain, we continued it. She looked back at the tactical display. Already, Eden 6's fleet was reforming, resupplying from hidden depots scattered across uncharted space. There was no sign of retreat. Reese leaned closer, his voice almost a whisper. You have a choice to make. Stay with us, and your people might live. Walk away, and when the Dominion comes for you, remember that we offered you a place in the winning side. Schur didn't answer. Her thoughts were heavy, her mind trapped between two equally dangerous truths. The Dominion was a monster. So was the thing Eden 6 had become to fight it. And monsters rarely stopped at just one enemy. The sky over, Alkesh Prime burned. Captain Schur had seen war before, but never like this. The Dominion didn't arrive with scouts this time. They came with an armada. Ships the size of cities drifted in low orbit, their hulls glowing with the heat of freshly fired weapons. Planetary shields flickered and died under concentrated fire. The air was filled with the deep, rolling thunder of orbital strikes. She stood on the Starpiercer's bridge, the deck trembling under her feet as the crew worked frantically to keep the ship from being torn apart. This wasn't Eden 6's fight anymore. This was her homeworld. Her cum came alive with a burst of static, then a familiar voice. Captain Schur, Commander Reese said, his tone sharp and urgent. Hold your position. Our fleet is inbound. She almost didn't believe it until she saw them. Eden 6's warships burst into the system like a dark tide, emerging from warp in tight lethal formations. Carriers disgorged swarms of drones. Gunships dove straight into Dominion formations, tearing through enemy shields with pinpoint fire. In the chaos above Valkesh Prime, the humans fought like they had been born in this war. Sure knew better they had been made for it. Reese's fleet slammed into the Dominion's flank, breaking their lines and forcing their larger ships to pull back. But the Dominion's retaliation was immediate and merciless. Valkesh cities burned. Civilian transports were vaporized before they could reach orbit. Even as the Dominion fleet faltered, the cost was unbearable. On the Starpiercer scanners, Eden 6's ships weren't just defending Valkesh Prime, they were pushing the fight forward, driving the Dominion toward their own space. She realized then that this rescue wasn't purely altruistic. Reese was using the Valkesh as a staging ground. Her cum crackled again. Reese's voice was calm, almost cold. Your world will survive today, Captain, but now it fights under. Our banner, the Valkesh, are part of the Eden 6 warfront. Shire's claws tightened on the console. You mean we're under your command? You're alive? Reese replied. That's the only command that matters. She looked out at the burning horizon, the warships darting through the smoke-choked sky. Part of her wanted to hate him. Another part knew he was right without Eden 6. Valkesh Prime would already be a graveyard. Then a new alert flared across the tactical display. Another fleet was entering the system. Not Dominion, not Eden 6. The ship's signatures were human, different from Eden 6's design, rougher, older. Sure frowned. Reese, do you see this? There was a pause on the line. Then his voice came back, low and edged, with something she hadn't heard before in his.
Yes.
Those ships aren't ours. The new fleet slowed as it neared the battle, their hulls scarred but armed. A transmission burst onto every channel. Human voice, deep and steady, filled the air. This is the freehold of Orion. To Eden 6. Stand down. You're not. The only human colony that's been waiting for this war. The channel went dead. For the first time since she had met him, Sure saw Commander Reese hesitate. Eden 6's grip on the war was no longer absolute. Humanity's return to the galaxy was bigger and perhaps more dangerous than anyone had guessed, and the war had only just begun.